any 100 cedis you do in a day, we won't charge you. So that's 3,000 maybe cedis a month, no charge. So which poor person transfers 3,000 cedis a month? As a matter of fact. Then somebody who is a pensioner will give me an emotive story that, well, I send money to my grandson or whatever, and you're going to tax me on that. But you know you don't send 100 cedis a day to your grandson. So it's a theoretical argument. But why are we getting into theory when we have 11 million children, nieces, nephews, that we have to find ways of employing? And the government is intervening with a 10 billion CD program to address that issue. So where is the sacrifices of our forebears when they launched us into emancipating Africa, the political independence, now launching us into economic independence, and we, at this junction, are refusing to do our quota, as they said, instead of a debt burden, to change it into burden sharing. And that becomes the issue of the politics. So we look at, let's say, the tax burden. And we have 30.8 million people. I think GRA expects so 11 or 18 million people to be in the taxable net. But we have only 2.4 million of us that are paying for the country. And everybody else is informal or is not paying. So we did some analysis. You know, typically when you talk about the informal market not paying, it's the masons, the carpenters, etc., that we think of, the Makola woman. And that may be true, but fortunately now everybody is being registered, so we'll find them. But when we did the analysis, we found 60,000 professionals, architects, doctors, lawyers, who are not paying anything. So you have the situation of a country that is refusing to face up to its realities. You know, the issue of entitlement and how we address this problem, in which between the 700,000 civil servants that we pay and the interest we pay on our debt, we essentially are spending 144% of the revenue that we get from GRA on that, meaning we have to borrow to do that. Now, why do we need to borrow from outside? We don't need to, but we need to find a system in which everybody is contributing. When you look at the numbers for e-levy or for Momo transactions, what we are seeing really is that in 2016, we had about 78 billion CDs of transfers going through. So that the issue of e-commerce is not only Ghanaian, it's becoming global, and it's the way in which business is going. Last year, from the 78 billion, we had about 953 billion going through Momos. So how does a country sit by, not recognize the change in our economics and the new tax handles that have been afforded us, while the old ones will fall off, and not begin to take advantage of it? Not only would it increase the mobilization of our revenue, but it also ensures that all of us participate in that. And I think that's important for equity and fairness for us to be able to do that. So instead of the leakages of everybody holding their bucket and dodging government in their own way, including our professionals and our informal market, we now have introduced what one pastor told me is a water hose When you are in that water hose, you can't get out. The nation will find you and you will pay your bit, and the nation will move on. Right now, we are doing about 12 or 13% of revenue compared to our GDP. All the countries around us are doing 16 to 20%. So obviously, we are not doing well enough as a people. And we need to sit to determine how we move forward in that. Another example, if you look at the breakdown of the taxes, we have Greater Accra, maybe providing about 88% of the taxes in the country. And if you add Ashanti, Western, and Eastern, they provide 3% of the taxes in our country. And for Volta region, I think the population of Volta region is about 5.6. And I think we provide 0.11% of the taxes. So you can begin to see the inequities that we have. But at the same time, the cry for infrastructure we have. But at the same time, the cry for infrastructure, roads, education is everybody's right. It's everybody's right. And we must find a means of fulfilling that desire. And as has been mentioned, therefore, if you look at the population of Volta region and determine that between the ages of your 1.7 million, between the ages of 15 and 35, we have almost 600,000 people, 588,000. And we know the level of unemployment or underemployment. I think it's calculated at about 13.8% here. How do we sit and allow 588,000 of our youth to be underemployed or unemployed, and not encourage our MPs to say there's a difference between our livelihood, there's a difference between politics, and there's a difference in what we must do for the Republic and for our children? Because for me, the indecency of not having a job after all of that education should not be tolerated by everyone. And at this stage, things, as has been told you by my colleagues, are even more exacerbated and worsened because of this war that we have in Ukraine and Russia. But even before that, we had begun to see inflation move in the West, global supply chains distorted, fuel prices now climbing up. So we really have no choice but to look at ways in which we can raise the resources internally to be able to do that. So here is to let you know that I believe a proud people like ourselves do not have a choice but to be able to give our children the opportunity so that we can improve and transform our economy. And the reason beyond what our forebears have done is that me, myself, I'm a beneficiary of, a society that has invested in people, or individuals that have invested in people. So I grew up in Chebi, born out of wedlock, and therefore, I had to live with my mom, and every morning, instead of going to school, there's this great river called Birim in Chebi. I'll go and swim and then come back home. And of course, grandma would know that you didn't go to school because your skin is all white, and you get a cane on your back. But be that as it may, finally, my father decided to recognize that he had a son living somewhere in Chebi, and then brought me out of Chebi to give me the chance to then go to Achimota School, etc., etc. But if that intervention had not occurred, I'm sure I'll still be in Chevi chewing my tawa and drinking my palm wine. And just to let you know that I was not the smartest person in my class. Yeah. Okay. So, the mic is on? Okay. On TV is acting. So therefore, got this opportunity then to be here with you through intervention, through the intervention of a responsible parent who then enabled one to go to school, and at this point to be your finance minister. And really the moral of the story is to say that of all those, you can hear, yeah, I think the TV is capturing it for us. The moral of the story is that if we all burden share, if we all do our part, we'll be able to tackle this problem of unemployment, these 11 million youth that are underemployed, and give them the chance to be able to be productive citizens of our land. So the 10 billion Youth Start program to create 1 million jobs is what the e-levy will enable us to do. The e-levy will also enable us to be able to pay our debt, and the e-levy will be able to will enable us to be able to build our railroads and our infrastructure and other roads. So we are really, ladies and gentlemen, in unprecedented times in which we as a nation need to come together. And there was an example in the 80s in Ireland where their debt to GDP had risen to 115% of their GDP, and unemployment was above 15%. And at that time, labor unions, government, faith-based organizations, and citizens all sat together and agreed that this can continue. How do we lock hands to face the issues that confront the Republic, and then we do our other fights in a different way? So we cannot continue to politicize what is good for the Republic, what is good for our youth, what is important for us to pay our debt, what is important for our infrastructure, and cost us our ability to also enter the international capital markets. So my charge and my plea to all of us is that we talk to our various MPs and we find common ground to find the revenue that is needed for us to be able to build our economy and get our youth working and pay down our debt. And that really is a conversation that we want to have here. And somebody might say, well, it's only 7 billion, which is under 10% of all the revenue that we intend to raise. But, you know, we always start small, and before long, we'll have the resources to be able to do much more. So the e-levy is not here to destabilize us, but it's to give us a consistency so that we can move forward to take really the reins of development into our own hands. And as we did to liberate Africa politically, as we are going to do with the economy through AfCFTA, it's what we should do for ourselves through e-levy to be able to transform our economy. So it is programmed to do just that. It is designed such that the very poor are not taxed on this, and it will make us once again that proud nation that we want to be. But there's something that I also want to leave us with. Because as we look at our economy and where we are as a people, as the black star of the nation, there's something that is happening that is scary. And that is what I call the Comoros syndrome. And it's really funny when I mention it, in other places. Because Comoros, where most of you don't know where this small island is, actually beat the Black Stars. And you ask yourself, how far have we come? How far back have we gone for a country like Comoros to beat us as the nation of the Black Stars that we are? And we are continuing to quibble about something that will bring back our pride and so. So I have this story that I will read to you that should give us some food for thought. And it's a story from a book called The Song of the Bird by Tony DeMello. So let me start. A man found an eagle's egg and put it in a nest of a barnyard hen. Yeah, little, chicken farms. The eaglet hatched with the brood of chicks and grew up with them. This is a little eaglet. All his life, the eagle did what the barnyard chicks did, thinking he was also a chicken. He scratched the air for worms and insects. He clucked and cackled, and he would thrash his wings and fly a few feet into the air like a chicken. Years passed, and the eagle grew very old. One day he saw a magnificent bird above him in the cloudless sky. It glided in graceful majesty among the powerful wind currents with scarcely a beat of its strong golden wings. The eagle, the old eagle now who thinks it's a chicken, looked up in awe. Who is that? He asked the fellow chickens. That's the eagle, the king of the birds, said his neighbor, the chicken. He belongs to the sky. We belong to the earth. We are chickens. So the eagle lived and died a chicken, for that's what he thought he was. Now we are the black star. You are beginning to feel that we have lost our aspirations, and instead of the eagles that we are in our coat of arms and our forebears who died for us to found this nation, we may die as chickens if we do not wake up. Let us rise and build our nation. Thank you very much.
Minister, many thanks for your presentation. Let me just render a few apologies. First, to our colleagues who are having to stand in the hallway, we apologize. I think we underestimated the attendance, and that's why you are having to stand out there. We sincerely apologize. Secondly, I think you noticed we had a little power trip. So for the tens of thousands of people who are watching us on television, they can still see us and hear us. But here in the auditorium, I think the volume fluctuates a little bit. You'd have to bear with us. So when you have an opportunity to ask a question, please do well to raise your voice so that those in the auditorium can hear you very well, while those who are at home also hear you. We have a delegation from the Ghana Revenue Authority and the Ministry of Finance that came to town with us. They will help us in responding to many of the technical questions. And then on the policy questions that will be raised, I'll come to the Honorable Minister for Finance to help us respond. For some of the, and let's face it, some of the issues are also plainly political. For some of the political issues that will also come up, JP is here, Pius is here, Regional Minister is here, myself, I'm here. We'll do our best to respond to them. Everywhere we go, we find that there's already been a lot of misinformation about the economy, about the e-levy, the mechanics and the purpose. And so we love to hear your questions so that we have an opportunity to respond to them. In that light, if I may ask for some direction on where the microphone is. Where's the microphone? And the stand to the microphone, COVID time, so we do well to ask you not to touch the microphone. It comes with a stand that will be brought to you. If you give me a wave where you are, you can ask your question in whatever language. My colleagues here will help me with the interpretation, and then we'll do our best to respond to you. Minister, I want to start with a little comment I saw from one of the persons who was viewing, or who is viewing this town hall meeting on one of our social media handles. And essentially, it's about this Coca-Cola example that you gave. If I just may read it out. It says, I think the working of the threshold of 3,000 cedis a month or 100 cedis a day needs further explanation. The scenario the minister gave about a bottle of Coke needs further explanation so that we don't think that we are being asked to contribute 5 cedis a day. Please explain it well for us. Because if indeed poor people are out, why this propaganda succeeding that it is rather targeting those of us down here who, after all, will not be affected? Minister, I'm sure you get the sense of this communication. So please make a note of that for us. I see some hands, I think, at the back. So, George, you have to help me. I can't see very far at the back. So you select 4 people for me who ask their questions. Minister, your microphone is on. Maybe just to clean up or to clear up this threshold matter. It appears there are still a lot of people who do not understand that there's a threshold. Some people are exempted. Can I have your attention, please? First, let me have, George, please hold on. Let me have everybody's attention. When we are done with this, we'll take the questions. So we need some clarity on this. It appears that some persons still don't understand that there's an exemption threshold. And that exemption threshold actually takes out the poor, that the poor are not part of this levy. If you can just explain that very well for us, what is that threshold, what are the mechanics, and then we'll go to questions. I don't know if your microphone works there, does it? Can you hear me? Well, I can't hear you in the speakers here, so please do join me here. I think the speakers here can't catch you. Please do join me. Let's try again. No, I think it's working. Yeah,
yes, thank you very much indeed. And I think that's truly an important question because you've gotten the sense that this tax is so pernicious to the poor and consideration had not been given. But we did an analysis which suggested to us that really when you look at 100 cedis being transferred each day, about maybe 30 or 40% of people do not do that. So we exempted the e-levy impact on anybody who transfers up to 100 cedis a day. That would mean, let's say, about 3,000 cedis a month. And in our view, that really covers, the daily transfers that people make. So if you have to do maybe 200 cedis because of a specific product you need to buy or transfer you have to do, you could do that in 2 days, and you are exempted from that. If you're a pensioner, pension rates are not that high, and you are sending money to your grandchild, likely it is under 100 cedis or less than 3,000 cedis in the month, and there will be no e-levy charge on that. So the propaganda is really unfortunate. And we actually met a woman in Wa who said she had been told that even her 50 cedis that she sends to her suppliers, she would be e-levied on that. And that when she has 2 cedis on her mobile money, government will take a CD 50 every week from that. So that's the type of misinformation that Minister is talking about. And it really hurts, for people to be resistant to it while not realizing that truly we've all been taken care of.
Minister, thank you. So just to reiterate, if you do not send more than 100 Ghana cedis a day, you will not be paying this tax. This tax or this levy only applies to people who send more than 100 Ghana cedis a day. So if you send 200 cedis, the first 100 cedis is exempt. It's from the 101 cedis going that this tax applies to. And as Minister explained, 40% of people who do Momo transactions, they send less than 100 Ghana cedis. And that is the poor. They are already taken out. It is the gap between them and the top about 2.4 million people who are the only people paying direct tax. Out of the about 15 million people who should be paying direct tax, only about 2.4 million are paying. The gap between them and the bottom is what we are seeking to share this responsibility with. And for that bottom, 40% has been taken out, those who send less than 100 Ghana cedis. So it's a good time. George, please identify 4 people. You have to help me and take the microphone to them. Not more than 2 questions each. Please make your questions simple so that other people can also ask their own questions and we can hear from as many people as possible. George. Yes, sir. So the first gentleman, please introduce yourself to us.
Yes, thank you. My name is Joshua Chacho.
Joshua.
Yes, from academia.
Joshua, your question.
Yes. The first is, we have the clarion call by the Vice President of our country, in the person of His Excellency Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, pushing the agenda for digitalization of our economy, encouraging young ones to transit from the carrying of bulk cash to digital economy or cashless economy. We have e-levy, which has become a lion frightening us from that agenda of participating in the digital economy. What is government's strategy of ensuring that, in as much as we push for e-levy, the performance in digital economy are not being threatened and frightened such that people resort to the carrying of cash instead of performing or participating in digital economy or platforms?
So how do we ensure that digitization doesn't suffer?
Yes.
Let's go to the next
key
question.
Government strategies.
Yeah.
Second is just a comment that our forefathers made sacrifices in terms of using their blood to buy the freedom we enjoy now in our country. But I want to say that yes, we are being asked to make a token or contribute a token to the development of our country. But I want to say that if we drive on bumpy and pothole-ridden roads such that our women do not get to the hospitals when they have to access health care and they die, we are making our contribution to our country, our sacrifices. When we drive on very dangerous roads that government could take some months or years to correct, and we carry on those things and we don't assess quality services, we are making our contributions. So somebody says, Sikaya Moja, the token is our blood, we are willing to contribute, but government should come out with key communication mechanisms that we are able to understand that, yes, if we pay these monies,
this is what it will be used
we will
for.
get this.
Thank
so
you.
that we are all able to do so. Thank you.
Let's hear from other people. And this forum is one of those engagement and communication platforms. So let's take 3 more. Yes, sir. Introduce yourself to us, sir.
Thank you. My name is Kingsley at Teacher B. I'm a broadcast.
Kingsley.
Yes.
Kingsley, your question.
Thank you. I'm a broadcast journalist. My question is that prior to the announcement of the e-levy, we have what we call the toll, where drivers pay on the road.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have not passed the e-levy bill, but the roads, the toll booths are no more working. And so the money that we get from the toll booth is missing. In that sense, the state surface.
It's not missing. It's not coming into the national
It's not coming. Yes, it's not coming.
Because before you realize, somebody will go and write a story that the money is missing.
It's no more coming.
Yeah.
And so, in the past days or within these days, we heard that even if we don't pay the e-levy, no salary for government workers.
Government has not said that.
How true is that first? And so, what is it that the e-levy is not passed, but we stop the payments of the toll booth? Thank you.
Very well. So the question is, why is it that the e-levy has not been passed, but we have stopped collecting toll booths? Toll booth levy, or the road levy at the toll booth. Yes, sir. 2 more. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Obey Evans. Honorable Finance Minister.
Evans.
Yes, please.
Evans, let's hear you.
Yes. For the sake of our locals, I would like to speak.
Please, go ahead.
Good. Nyepanya mejema gloa. Honorable Finance Minister, I must obey so miapa e-levy. Ple nuzozo yoji ye miapa kutrikuku black babajeje be miase goma batu me view so suita on hiambe mia dashire e-levy aji afi miao abe miapa tu plala yao kele mgona mia tank plotoa lango alo le deti no mama mama biaba afi mia hozia mienya ba dasiaro mi tsonami mi hozia la maroshi ye mi sinami yenye wo finance minister ba na kokpolo joa bada mi afa duplo lanwa do do le mi gbamba account alo accountability lenya yo kata gbogboma nyemasa nenye ba de adowo wonwi alo fukpakpa de gadama ye agafo le mi afa confessame yiko hiambe mi aji gabubu yata wo le fa vien ba nenye ba e-levy ya wo ma passe wa mi agatanwa asana na kama ba du koma vio gakpada ngude taflate no ma passe ode leke wano nami abadu me vio ne ka do fiafiamba du me vio pa va fasa sei blomo le ba o enyama de da kokona yo ha yo majiba e-levy no passe ka bon mi ada susubu bode ka kpere du koma tonu de ye ado fiaba amama kokom tututu na du plola alo mi angogbo no o hiaba mi ato ya konya dati to a majiba masa alo mi asa yama.
Thank you very much. I heard EGA and I heard accountability. Pius, can you help us?
Yeah, first commended the minister for the exercise and suggested that we took over from another administration and some comments and promises were made. He wants to find out the monies that were in the coffers, and I'm quoting him literally, the monies that were in the coffers. Is it the case that they have run out and we need now to raise more money for the coffers, and that's why we have to raise the e-levy? And then secondly, what will be the implications for them if the e-levy is not passed, them as citizens, if the e-levy is not passed? And then how is it that government doesn't want to listen to their cry that, well, we understand the situation, but we just don't want to pay. Go and look for another way to raise the money. As for the e-levy, we understand the need for it, but we just do not want to pay. Can we not look at any other option?
Thank you. Thank you very much for simplifying. I'll take a final one, and then I'll come for responses. Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, my name is Karubin Kofi Ziga.
Ziga, let's hear your question.
Yeah, my question goes to the finance minister. In his submissions, he says something about where lies our burden sharing, the sacrifice and commitment as citizens to help government solve problems. I want to ask that in his budget, he made us understood that the Office of Government Machinery alone is estimated to spend about even the half of the e-levy that he wanted to take from us. If he is asking us as citizens to share the burden and sacrifice to help government, I want to ask, what if he also goes down and cuts down the budget of the government machinery?
That is the free SHS budget, the NAPCO budget. Which of them are you asking him to cut?
I am asking him to cut that of the executive.
Which
the
one?
Presidency.
Because
I'm asking him to cut.
Take your time. Because the Office of Government Machinery, that's why I'm mentioning the items to you.
Yes, please.
Free SHS, NAPCO, Ghana AIDS Commission,
Please.
One district, one factory.
No,
that's the Office of Government Machinery.
Yes, and I'm taking one.
So just
out.
help us.
The one that I'm talking of is that of the executive, the presidency.
Okay. Which one is that one, by the way? How much is that one?
3.5 billion.
No, that's not true.
In 2022.
No, it's not true. That's the Office of Government Machinery.
Yes, please.
Made up of free. Please, let's take our time.
Yes.
This is a town hall meeting. If we don't go through some of these things, somebody gets confused at home. So let's take our time. The Office of Government Machinery is 3.1 billion. It's made up of free SHS, NAPCO, 1D, 1F, Ghana AIDS Commission, and all of those ones. You say you are picking the one about the presidency. Mention that figure and tell me, this is the one I want us to cut. This is the figure I want us to cut.
I have the rundowns here. What I want the finance minister to do.
Can I get a chair?
In all,
Chair.
I'll pick only one out of the government machinery. That of the presidency and that of the executive. I am not privy to the exact amount that he is spending there.
I hear you.
I'll be fat.
Now,
my second question goes to my country.
Go ahead. Noe, I'm sorry. Noe, please join me here.
Merekuku mechibe mabia Dumega Johnny Foyao. Pious ya wa mikple han viminyota mayebe pious. Mechibe mabia bede. Egbe mile miagbo abe pefio be Mr. Ngome nemi naga kokpe de jidu duom le miama joga ome. Gakemejibe mabia be peiva yi eimeka o khle jidudu fedodo de Ghana to konwa amuganto me mesenya de ke chomiagbo namio de o fle nanu le khetosio me khefe na kheto maha akpe.
So, Honorable Pius, you want to quickly interpret that for us, and then we'll start the responses from there. So, Ziga, thank you for your question. George, from there we'll move to another side of the auditorium and go around so that more people can ask their question. A quick translation, and then we'll get reactions.
Okay, the questioner makes the claim that when the budget, the Agyapong budget was presented, nothing was said about the Volta region, and he has expressed surprise that Peter and my good self kept quiet. But today we have come to ask them for money. And he wants us to respond to why, when nothing was said about the Volta, we didn't say anything. But that's his question.
But that is exactly not even true.
No, it cannot be.
That's not true. And I think as we go through the answers, maybe when Minister is done, I will come. JP, okay, please respond to that one. I'll add something to it, then we'll go to the others.
This is just to address that. Novinye and Ziga, Nenes do to budget, Nuya Ogloa, Nakobo Volta Regina, Element, a future. Mana example the Gauko. Ho where the there, nu the car the common. Yes, man, nothing me by example, I have Volta Regina. Miabe Eastern Corridor Moya, Ejele budget ame. Eastern Corridor wa to Howe. Keteke Moya ba ide Jogoma. Ejele budget ame. Howe there is a new university. Ejele budget ame. Housing project. Ejele budget ame. Ezekoma. UHAS. Ejele budget ame. TVET education, technical and vocational education. Ejele budget ame. Housing project, Bagble. Youth resources, ejele budget eme. Novinyo, let me bear a whole Aplau road, ejele budget eme. Ta, Mada Kukube, Volta Regina, anu ya omie pole, efe ya pe budget ma. Ta frache, mia novi ya ono nyiba ya NDC ya. Mekpo nu ma odomotore ke le budget amo. Ne mi nya ni kore dina, mia doko mi akweje sinema. Ta Volta Region featured deeply in this budget.
Minister, I need you to also translate this for me. In addition to what you said, there are 261 districts in Ghana. 18 of those districts, if I'm correct, are from the Volta region. Every one of those 18 districts was budgeted for and is in the budget. Every one of those 18 districts. So if somebody, for political purposes, comes to tell you that Volta region was not included in the budget, it cannot be true. It is not true.
Minister Boblombe, a moment fia de Kadaka, Alofa Aden, Alofa Verblat de Vodeke, Yele Dukome, Volta, Mia Toleme, Ome Wieni, Ule Mia Domi, Afisha Fika Mome Fiala. O ngodoyo ngogbe do wo mafuma alebe suku howo konji howo o tumde tepe sia tepe tanamade the politics star over global Volta pon comedy la budget amoa amamoto yantepo.
Thank you. Minister, I want to come to you for your responses. So for example, on the question of accountability, There was a question, I think, by Pius that deals with, no, it was that by Evans, and Pius interpreted. It deals with accountability, for example. His supposition, and it's a good opportunity for education, his supposition is that the previous administration left some money in the national kitty. Now that we are asking Ghanaians to pay a new levy, is it because there was some money that is finished that we are asking people to pay a new levy to fill the national kitty? Or is it the case, for example, that the exercise of government expenditure is about daily raising revenue to meet those expenses, and as the needs and the demands grow, we have to raise a lot more money? You may want to do some education on that one for us. I think we've dealt with a claim that the Volta region was not included in the budget. There's another question from Joshua. How do we ensure that digitization does not suffer? Does government have any concrete plans to ensure that digitization does not suffer? And why are toll levies not being collected now, though e-levy has not been approved now? Minister, we're in your hands for this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed for this. And I think that's really the excitement about these town hall meetings, because we can really speak truth to power and sometimes understand sort of the misinformation that we have and why we keep sticking to old arguments even when we have answers to them. And I think that's really important for us to do. And it's also quite disturbing for me when I hear our university graduates who sometimes will not research and read themselves to debunk things, because that's why we send them to school, not to stick to ideology, but to stick to truth. And the way I grew up in the village, came out, got lucky to be where I am, I do respect research and to be able to debunk things. So, for example, we talk about the issue, and a lot of hyperbole, the lion frightening us out of digitalization. And the question becomes, if you are a government or a finance minister, you see an area of business increase from 78 billion to almost $1 trillion, and you sit back and say, I won't touch it. And that is where the direction of the country is going, or e-commerce is going. So we talk about digitalizing our economy, and the speculation is that the benefits of Momo transfers are so minimal that people will start carrying sacks of money to go back to the lorry station to send it somebody to go to. We know that is not true. Besides, we can have a policy, which I hope we will do so, which will say that we are going to have a cashless economy, maybe in 3 years or in 5 years. And what does that mean? Meaning there will be no paper for you to use, because everything will be on your phone, etc., etc. It doesn't mean that you've moved away from digitalization. You are accelerating it because it's more efficient. I can find your grandma and send her money, etc. So let's not speculate about the future in a way that stops us from facing the realities of where we are going. What we are doing is bringing everybody into this water hose so that everybody contributes and we move forward as one nation. And that's what we should. So you shouldn't be the lion frightening us from the future. Then we talk about e-levy and tolls. You know, the challenge really is, you know, we passed the appropriation very quickly because there was an absolute belief in the direction that we're going. And then the politics came to stall the issue of the revenue measure, which is e-levy. And therefore, the issue of the tolls being disbanded, you know, have then become a chain around our necks. But beyond that, I mean, that's something that you see physically. I'm telling you that because of what we are doing, now our access to the international markets, you know, it's being curtailed to a certain degree, and even when we go, we are now going to pay 500